Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of the Lanzarote News and Weather Bulletin. I'm Mike from Lanzarote Information. And as usual this week we will be covering all of the latest news from the island, bringing you up to date with that. We'll also be doing three things you could be doing if you're here next week. And somewhere in the middle of the bulletin, we'll be talking about the useful Spanish words of the day, which I share with you every week on this bulletin. So let's give you a weather update. As you can probably see from the sun streaming in over my head from the skylight, the claraboya above me, it's beautiful. It's kind of classic June weather here at the moment, which typically consists of fairly cloudy mornings, and I'm shooting this in the morning and there are a few clouds about, so you might see the light changing during the course of the bulletin, but it usually burns off by the middle of the day and then we're having hot sunny afternoons. The trade winds have started, so we've got a fair breeze around the island at the moment as well, which is keeping it bearably comfortable. Temperatures are in the mid to high 20s currently during the day, falling to perhaps 18 or 19 at night. And you know what, I can't believe it's June already. I mean, June is one of the months I love on the island because it's all about the Fiestas de San Juan. The fiestas take place in Aria, and it's always quite a magical night here on the island. We've got Midsummer Night coming up later on in the month, and to me it's always been the precursor to the summer season, where the whole vibe on the island changes somewhat, because instead of having middle-aged and older couples on the island as we typically do through the winter months, the summer becomes the time of the youngsters. So we have lots of young families here with children and babies who are getting their first taste of the island. And as you walk around the resorts, you'll hear lots of excited kids laughing and enjoying themselves here in Lanzarote. But enough waffle, let's get on with the news. And we had news this week that the Ayuntamiento of Teguise are going to invest, well, the figure I've got is 800,000 euros, but I've also seen €1 million in some of the local press this week. I don't know where they got their numbers from, but 800,000 euros in upgrading the beach areas of Costa Teguise. And that means putting new street furniture in. They've already done the lighting. It's resurfacing some of the pathways along the promenade. It's completely refurbishing the public toilets on the beaches, and it should be a really good investment, and that kicks off over the next few weeks. And as we get into the middle of the summer, that work should be completed. Some interesting numbers about French tourism, and this is a sector of the market that has been growing steadily and quite fast over the last 10 years. And in fact, this year to date, we've had 87,000 French tourists come to the island, which is a record number. And it means 2025 is likely, as a whole, is likely to be a record for French tourism. And it's possible they may even overtake what we call national tourism, and that's tourism that comes from mainland Spain, and move into sort of fourth or third place, depending upon where they finish up in the overall number of tourists visiting the island. And in fact, the number of French coming here has multiplied by 3 times in the last 10 years. So it's a growing market for the island, and one that local businesses are starting to address with much more interest now. Now, there's been a lot of talk on the island about providing affordable homes for rental for people here. And the Cabildo actually kicked off some work last year to try to address this problem. And their aim is that over the next 5 years, they will bring around 700 new homes into the affordable rental market. Well, the first phase of that is very much nearing completion, and that consists of 42 properties in Maneje in Arrecife, which should be available for rental very shortly. But that project's actually a much bigger one. In total, when phases 2 and 3 are completed, it's likely to be close to 200 new homes that will be available in Arrecife. The Cabildo have also bought 42 part-built properties in Playa Blanca, and they will be going into the same scheme as part of this objective to reach 700 affordable rental homes on the island for residents. Now, we had some news this week, earlier this week, that Playa Dorada, which is one of the best beaches on the island in Playa Blanca. It's the one with all the sunbeds on it and the jet skis and the parasending and all the toys like kayaks and so on. It had to be closed down. Now, you may be aware of this, but all of the beaches in Lanzarote are tested daily. The water is tested to make sure that it's safe. And on this week, Playa Dorada tested negatively for a microalgae. Now, these things aren't that dangerous, but for some people, they can cause rashes and sore eyes. So the beach was immediately closed, and what happens then is that a series of multiple tests each day go on until they get a clear result. And it took 2 days. Playa Dorada is now open again. It took 2 days to put it right. But it's worth sharing the story because it means when you do swim here and the beaches are open, you know for sure that they are safe because the water in them is being regularly tested. Playa Dorada I think it's the first one this year that's had to be closed. We probably have 3 or 4 times a year a beach gets closed. And the issue comes when the wind or the tide are in a certain direction and they bring these small algae in close to shore. Now, this is a bit of a frustrating story. I don't know if you were watching these bulletins back in September last year, but I reported that the Cabildo had put forward a project to repair the road at El Gulfo. And you may know that road has been closed for nearly 5 years now. And it was where there was a sinkhole where the foundations of the road had been eroded by the action of the sea. Now, they presented the proposal, as I say, in September. We all got very excited that the road is going to reopen. It's a great shortcut for people who live in Playa Blanca and want to go to El Golfo, but it's also one of the most beautiful cycling roads on the island, and Julie and I regularly used to do a loop around El Golfo. Well, frustratingly, the Cabildo have now said they don't actually have the money to do the job. And Oscar Noda, the mayor of Tiise, wrote a scathing opinion piece this week saying that the Cabildo can always find money for fiestas and parties and events, but they never find the money, or they always delay finding the money for infrastructure improvements. I have to say, I think he's got a point. And while I'm dissing the Cabildo, I should talk about the final story about them this week. Don't worry, I won't bang on about this too much. But you may also recall that I talked about a plan ages ago, I think it might have been last summer, that the Cabildo came up with for reducing the queuing situation at Timan Fire at the Montañas del Fuego. And the idea behind this was that you wouldn't just be able to rock up in your car anymore whenever you wanted to. You would have to pre-book and prepay for a visit to Timan Fire, and you would then be given a time slot. And the idea behind that was that there would be limited time slots within an hour period, so that you don't get queues there, and it would make the experience of people going there so much better. I thought it was a brilliant idea. I thought it was going to happen imminently, but it hasn't so far. And interestingly, the Canarian government this week said to the Cabildo that you really need to get this up and running. So hopefully that will be enough of a kick up the backside to get them moving on it. Now, I should do the useful 2 Spanish phrases I'm going to give you this week, and they're ones you'll use all the time when you're giving someone directions or asking someone for directions, and they are to the left and to the right. So to the right is a la derecha, and to the left is a la izquierda, a la izquierda. Now that second one, a la izquierda, brings an interesting conversation point up, because we say izquierda here in the Canary Islands, and the way we speak Spanish is much more akin to South American Spanish than Castilian Spanish. A Castilian Spanish speaker will pronounce the Z as a th, whereas here in the Canaries we pronounce it almost like an S. So if you ask someone in Madrid for directions, they would say a la izquierda, a la izquierda. But you can say it either way, you will be understood. So typically here it's a la izquierda to the left and a la derecha to the right. And next up, we've had news that around 1,500 people are registered for next week's wine run. And the wine run takes place next Saturday, the 14th of June. And it's just a brilliant event. And I'll tell you a bit more about it in the 3 things you could be doing next week later on in this bulletin, because there's an opportunity still for you to enroll in it if you want to do it. And if you don't fancy doing it, but you want to go along for the party afterwards, you can do so. So I'll tell you more about that a little bit later on. But there are about 1,000 currently subscribed. I think we'll finish up with about 1,500 when registrations close at the end of this weekend. Our super story here, this relates to a local company called Swim Lab International. They are a business that runs swimming water therapy sessions for people with disabilities. They work, for example, with a lot of kids with cerebral palsy, and they give them therapy in swimming pools, which helps them with their movement and their mobility generally. They started as a 2-man band, basically, run by their current CEO, Paul Webb, and his partner, Chris. And Chris and Paul, I remember when they started the business, they're good friends of ours, started this basically from home with a hired swimming pool. And over the last few years, they've now grown it into a real powerhouse of an organization. They have their main base remains in Lanzarote. They have one in Florida. They do pop-up bases around the world. And it's a big company now. And Paul has won an award from Forbes of Europe as the best European CEO. And Paul and Chris went to Madrid last week and they collected his award. Well deserved, terrific company, and I'm really proud that we are not only friends with them, but we work with them as well, helping a lot of their clients to travel to wherever they need to go to get their therapy sessions. So congrats, mate, well done. Now, if you've ever travelled in the north of the island, the northernmost municipality is Aria, and we have a lot of cyclists who come up to the north of the island because the roads are magnificent and there's not too much traffic on them, and therefore they all come to the north of the island, which is great. But what we don't have is bike parking for them. And I've always thought it's a bit of a shame because they'll cycle up here on their very expensive lightweight carbon fibre bikes. And if they want to go into a supermarket to buy some food or stop for a coffee at a restaurant, they end up sort of leaning their bikes very precariously against the walls. It doesn't just look bad, it's probably not that good for the bikes. So the Ayuntamiento here have decided they're going to install bicycle parking, as they call it, bike racks is what I would call it, in every single village of the island. So in future people will be able to just nose in their bikes and park them safely, which I think is great news. Now, before I do the last 2 pieces of news with you, I just want to tell you about our weekly newsletter, which we've been writing since 2008, and it goes out every Friday. So every Friday morning, our readers receive the newsletter at around 11 o'clock in the morning into their inboxes. So what does it consist of? Well, it's a long newsletter where I bring you up to date with everything that's been going on the island over the last week. I tell you what we've been doing over the previous week. I add a lot of commentary to the news stories that I give you in this weekly bulletin. But you also get early access to all of our videos and links to all the new and updated content on our website, all of the pictures that Julie has taken during the week on her travels around the island, and much more. So if that's something that's of interest to you, and I think it's only of interest to you if you're really, really invested in Lanzarote and just want to know everything that's going on, have a look in the description below. There's a link there which will tell you much more and give you a much better pitch than I've done now. But have a look at it, and if you think it's for you, we'd be delighted to start sending it out to you from next Friday. And now the final 2 pieces of news for you. The first is about some figures that have gone up. The other is about some figures that have gone down. And the first will come as no surprise to anybody. The period January to April this year, we've got the figures in for that, and there have been a record number of tourists to the Canary Islands. The total was 5.1 million people visiting the Canary Islands in the period January to April, and that's about 4% up on last year, which of course was a record. I said at the beginning of this year that I thought Lanzarote would have yet another record year after 2024, and we're certainly on target for that to happen. Another astonishing statistic is that for 22 months consecutively now, the Canary Islands have had more than 1 million visitors a month, which is a huge number because, of course, we're not seasonal like the Balearic Islands, for example, who compress all their visitors into a summer season, or most of their visitors into a summer season. So we are just consistently 1 million people visiting the islands every single month for the last almost 2 years now. The figure that's gone down is unemployment, and the number of people unemployed in Lanzarote now is at its lowest level since 2008. And when you consider how much the population has grown in that period, it's grown dramatically. It's astonishing that we've fallen below the number of unemployed back in 2008. So that certainly, from an economic point of view, is really good news. Now, I promised to give you 3 things that you could be doing on the island next week, and the first of them is one that takes place over 2 days. And that's Saturday the 7th, which is today for many of you watching this, and Sunday the 8th of June. And this is the Feria de Saldos. And this takes place in San Bartolome, and it's an annual event. And it takes place in the plaza, right in the center of San Bartolome. And there will be stalls put up for this. And it's a really nice little event, and you'll find a lot of fashion stuff on sale there. There'll be bargains to be had. There will be trinkets, jewellery, live music, food, and all kinds of things. Don't expect it to be as full on, for example, as the Teguise market. It's a lot more gentle than that, and there won't be thousands of people there, but it'll be really nice to have a wander around. We've been a few times over the years. It's always been a very pleasant event. Now, the second one I'm going to recommend is also takes place over 2 days, and this is called Lava Live, and this is on Friday the 13th and Saturday the 14th of June, so next Friday and Saturday. And this is a live music event which has lots of live bands, DJs performing as well, and it takes place at Recinto Ferial, which is the fairground near the Cabildo in Arrecife. And there's always some really good acts on, and there's a great party atmosphere, and you're right on the promenade there, so the position is great. If you get bored during it, you can wander off and have a swim at the beach at Playa del Reducto, or you can go and get some lunch and then wander back there. So that's Lava Live next Friday and Saturday. And the last one, and I said I'd talk a bit more about this, is the wine run, which is next Saturday the 14th. Now, the way that works is that for the people competing in it, they arrive at Uga early in the morning on Saturday. They're then transported by bus to La Heria, to the wine region where the start line is, and they'll head out on either a 23-kilometre run, a 12-kilometre run, or a 12-kilometre walk at various times. And the timing is ideally so that pretty much everyone arrives all together for the finish in Uga. You don't have to run it, as I said, although it's called the wine run. There is a walk, which is quite a pleasant 12-kilometre walk without any hills in it. Julie and I do it every year. We thoroughly enjoy it. And you get to walk through some of the most beautiful parts of the island that you can't normally walk through in Timan. So you can get up close and personal with the grapevines. You'll see musicians out there just playing for the people participating. You'll probably see a camel or two on the route. The bodegas put out little stalls where they'll let you taste their wine, and you can also have cheese and marmalades and things like that. The finish, though, is in Uga, as I say. Everyone's presented with a medal, and then there's just the most amazing party that goes on. And all of the top restaurants on the island will be selling their wares, so you can buy burgers and steaks and fish dishes, and all of the bodegas will be there selling tastings of their wine and also their wines so that you can take them away with you. There's lots of live music and the atmosphere is terrific. Now you can participate in two ways. You can either do the run or the walk, and you can still register for it now up until the end of this weekend, or you can just go along to Uga for the party afterwards. And you can just, if you can park your car there somewhere in one of the big car parks that's laid on for it, you can wander into town and you can be part of that event, watch the runners come and the walkers come over the line and get issued with their medals, and then enjoy some food and wine. It's a brilliant magical event that was invented by Kenneth Gask, who was the same man who brought Ironman to Lanzarote. Now, do you have a question for me? Is there anything about this news bulletin or anything in general about Lanzarote that you would like me to answer? Just put a comment in below. I read every single comment and I will be happy to answer it for you. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. It really does help us out. If you haven't already subscribed to our channel, please do so. It's completely free of charge. But what it means is that you'll be notified when our new videos come out. We put one out on a Tuesday, one on a Thursday, and this one every Saturday. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. We really do appreciate your time. Bye for now. Bye.